What's up, hockey fans? Welcome to a Friday edition of Morning Cup of Hockey alongside Colby, Cohen. I'm Jonny, Lazarus, and we got a great show with you today. We're going to have Emily Kaplan from ESPN join the show any second here, and we'll be talking about the Rangers-Panthers Game 5 last night. We'll probably spend the first half of the show doing that. Then we'll get into our OutWest Worst Team of the Week. We'll talk about Game 5 tonight between the Dallas Stars and the Edmonton Oilers and our feel for that game. But before we do anything, Colby, anything that stood out to you last night with the Rangers and Panthers that you feel the need to start the show with today?
You know, I actually thought it was one of the better games that the Rangers have played in the series, which cannot make you feel good if you're a New York Ranger fan, because the Florida Panthers they put you in the meat grinder. Like, that's what they do. I've said it throughout this playoff series. They're like an NFL team that will run the ball 80% of the time. And, you know, you just look at the fact that the Florida Panthers were credited with one giveaway last night.
Yeah.
One.
Maurice's reaction to that was hilarious.
And he laughed because he knows that that's not true. There's definitely more than one giveaway in that hockey game, but it was only one egregious giveaway in the whole game. And that is a winning formula. And we saw the Vegas Golden Knights play that way last year en route to a Stanley Cup, because Bruce Cassidy just had his team playing with such an immense amount of discipline. But you've got to be a little bit disheartened today if you're a New York Ranger fan, because, you know, the Rangers had a good game. They had offense. They had opportunities. I thought that they played a little more physical. I thought that obviously they get a big play from Chris Kreider, which you love to see. Zibanejad makes a big play on Lafreniere's goal. So a couple of guys, entered the chat a little bit, so to speak. But, I was in a group text with, Kenny Albert amongst a couple of other people that are very big Ranger fans. And I said to Kenny, Kenny's producer from Fox, on football, I said to him, Fran, you can't be upset tonight. The New York Rangers played a good game that they could have won, and they just lost to a better team. And that's just what we're witnessing here in the series.
I mean, I think you can be upset, and we should bring our friend from ESPN, Emily Kaplan, on, who's waiting so patiently this morning as she tries to catch a flight to Florida.
All right, so bring her in.
So, Emily, come in. But there is one play that I do want to discuss, and we're so happy to have you here, by the way, Em.
Thank you. Thanks for calling me patient. That was so kind.
Yeah, well, you were. But about a couple minutes into the second period, maybe 5 minutes in, Nico Mikkola barges into Igor Shesterkin. And I know every hockey player, their instinct is to defend their goalie. In that moment, Erik Gustafsson, gets a roughing call, I believe, and probably one that, your teammates look at and say, you did the right thing, you defended our guy. But the Rangers have a chance to go up on a 5-on-3 there, and their power play to that point had not been producing, had not been good. You get a 5-on-3 in that game with a 1-0 lead and all the momentum on your side and the energy in the building. God knows what happens. And you can say what if about a lot of things in hockey, but if the Rangers find a way to score that goal on a 5-on-3, we could be talking about a totally different outcome and a totally different vibe in this series. Again, if they don't score in the 5-on-3, we're probably talking about the same thing right now. They don't score. Their power play has gone stale, and their energy has been sucked out. But those little things can have such big magnitude in a playoff series, and I'm just curious what you guys think about that one play. And obviously, we're sitting here saying what if, but I think that's a huge turning point in the game.
I mean, how rare is it to get a goaltender interference call from a defenseman on the penalty kill? Like, it was a really rare play, right? And I get it, though. I think watching Igor in this series, he's been a revelation. He's been unreal. And he's been so fiery, right? You see him punch Matthew Tkachuk. You see him push guys out of his crease. So I don't blame Gustafsson there, because we know that these Panthers players play on the edge, and kind of the way to keep them within line is to edge them right back. And so he made that decision in the time. You're right. That was a swing of the game. But like, anytime you talk to these guys, it's never one play. It's never one opportunity. It's a culmination of things. And I just think when it comes down to, and we talk about this game, the Panthers, like, once again, just wore the Rangers down in the third period. Just their style is so mentally and physically taxing. And that, to me, is why the Panthers are on the brink of going to their second straight Stanley Cup final, and the Rangers have to win 2 to get there.
Yeah, and Emily, I would be so curious to hear, and I don't know if anybody asked or talked to Erik Gustafsson last night after the game, but did he know that there was a penalty called Because if you do know that a penalty's been called, the officials are looking to even it up. And always, especially late in playoff games, like these refs, and I know Rangers fans today probably feel like they got screwed, and the night before Panthers fans feel it doesn't. Whoever loses, their fan base feels like they got screwed. So if we're gonna play conspiracy theories, the league would want the Rangers in the Stanley Cup Finals because it's New York, right? If we're gonna play that game, but I'm just curious, like, because as a player, you just have to know, like, all right, we're about to get a power play. I can't do anything to jeopardize that play. Now, if it was like an egregious elbow to the head and the guy got knocked out and it's like, emotion and Rempe's on the ice and whatever, that's a different circumstance. But, Eric Gustafsson, who's one of the nicest human beings in the entire NHL, who's not a physical player whatsoever, you got to have better awareness there. He's also a power play guy. So, that responsibility, I know people are upset at the refs, but you got to put a little responsibility on the player there for not having that situational awareness.
Yeah. I don't know if that was a question for Emily or not, but
I'm not commenting on the refs. I'm taking myself out of that one.
Yep. Fair enough. But Emily, you're in both locker rooms. You're around both coaches, both teams. And, I've felt it this year. The Panthers, just their swagger is on another level. And for the Rangers right now, going back to Florida down 3-2, I know that, everyone is probably saying the Panthers are going to close this thing out, which makes you think the Rangers are probably going to win because that's just how this game goes. But can you talk about just the vibe of the rooms and the vibe of the players and what you can do to, and this is going to be as cringe as it gets, but turn the swag off for Florida,
I think both teams very much follow the identity of their coaches. Like I've been saying this, I said it on a couple SportsCenter hits yesterday, and I firmly believe it. The Panthers are one of the most confident groups that I've ever been around, like point blank. And again, I think when Paul Maurice took over, he made this bold decision of like, yeah, you guys look awesome and you're scoring a ton of goals and the fans love it, but this isn't going to win in playoff hockey. And I'm going to make you guys play the style where you're completely hounding pucks and you wear teams down and it's going to be mentally and physically taxing. But they all bought in. And the style that they play is so clear. And that's why they're so swaggy. It also follows Matthew Tkachuk, who's not afraid of the mic, just like Paul Maurice isn't. And that shields some other guys like Alexander Barkov, their captain, who doesn't love the attention so much. And I think they know who they are. They don't care. They play on that edge. They've really peeled back that physical element in the playoffs to the point where they're not getting penalized for it. Like I've reported during, I think, game 1 or game 2, that on their bench it says STFU under all of the officials' names, just like, guys, stop complaining to the officials, focus on your game, and their penalties are way down. So I just think they're a super confident group. They know who they are. They know their style works, and they have the ability to bully other teams. And that's why, like, even though you're going to hear all the guys say there's like one game at a time mentality, like deep inside, I think they're like, we're those guys, we're the dogs, and we're going to win. Yeah. Meanwhile, the Rangers, like Peter Laviolette, is all about the process, and they practice so hard. And it's because, like Brady Schneider told me, we just feel like you can't turn on and off competitiveness. Like you just need to turn it up all the time. And all season long, you saw it. I mean, this is a team that's had more comeback wins combined from the regular season and playoffs than any other team in NHL history. And so even when their backs against the walls, even when you don't believe in them, like they trust their process too. And that's why I do think this series isn't quite over. But much more muted, much more understated. Like the guys who I think that are vocal leaders and emotional leaders, I think that would be like a Kreider. He's not showing it to us, the media. He's just showing it to his teammates. So you're having a lot of mystery and questions of like what's actually going on behind closed doors, but they're a confident group too.
One quick follow-up to that, Colby, if you don't mind me stepping in. What does STFU stand for?
Yeah, am I allowed to? This is not a Disney.
I was just wondering if you'd drop an F-bomb on here.
Johnny uses the F word all the time. It makes me a little uncomfortable.
It's okay. I mean, like he was getting punished in detention like a couple years ago for those words. So like, we just gotta,
it is. I do always have to remember that like it's not that long ago. Johnny was probably sitting in front of the TV watching Nickelodeon and like Nick at Night. So
big Jimmy Neutron guy.
I don't know though. Gen Z, did those even exist still?
You guys have this now. You and Jimmy Neutron have the same size forehead. So
yeah, it makes sense. I fucking spoon fed you that one.
You did. So Emily, you brought up Paul Maurice, and I think he's been an absolute clip machine this year. I mean, the clips coming out of every time that he talks, whether it's you interviewing him on the bench, whether it's his press conferences, pre, post, whatever, you know, they're running it all over SVP at night. They're running it all over the Sports Center. McAfee is showing the clips. I mean, it is everywhere. How enjoyable is it for you to have some personality? Because, you know, so often you get these players in these big moments and, you know, under the surface, their feet are moving a million miles an hour. They're ready to scream and celebrate. But then they sit down with you in front of the microphone and, like, you know, their arms tighten up. Paul Maurice is the complete opposite of that. He's willing to take all the attention. He's willing to take all the pressure off his team. And he just gives you, like, ridiculously funny comments all the time. And, you know, is that something that you're just like, I can work with this guy compared to what I'm normally doing?
Yeah, I'm not gonna like sit here and bitch. Oh, curse. That my job.
You're fully allowed to curse, by the way. I just wanted to
fucking right. All right. I'm not gonna bitch that my job is fucking hard. And then I sit there and I know these guys have personalities, and it's so much more muted and understated to other sports because of the culture of conformity that we have. It's just one of the reasons we love hockey, but it limits it from a media perspective. That said, it's really tough, as you mentioned, Colby, like Alex Wenberg, when like you come over from the trade deadline and you score a game winner on the road and it's like the biggest, most important goal and you hadn't produced yet. And like, I give you a layup of like, hey, talk about Igor Shesterkin, who kept you guys in this game where like you didn't have any opportunity. And he's like, yeah, no, he's really good goalie. We're really lucky to have him. On Alex, like, give me something here. It was also like very Swedish of him. So it can be frustrating at times because we want to grow the game. And here at ESPN, I feel like we believe growing the game through storytelling. We're a Disney company and stories need characters. Characters have personalities. And I think Paul Maurice, I would put Jon Cooper in the category too. Get it better than everyone else. That we have a function to do as media to sell the game, and they can play a part in helping us out. Paul loves the mic. Like, I'm going to say it. He loves it too, because I think he's got a good command of his room. And even though he has a bunch of guys who aren't afraid to speak up too, like Tkachuk, it takes a lot of pressure away from them because they're all talking about whatever silly and ridiculous analogy that Paul came up with that day. And they're not talking about like, oh no, like, you know what, they did, you know, do X, Y, or Z or whatever. So it is super refreshing. You do need to just like stick a mic in front of his face and just get after it. He knows what he's doing though. Like I really believe, and I believe this with Jon Cooper when I covered them to the Stanley Cup final my first year doing this. Like he plants story ideas and seeds like early on and like lets them grow and matriculate. Like he's got a script. And he wants us to follow the script.
Like the bad ice. He keeps dropping those little bad ice seeds.
But like the Rangers started that, though. The Rangers
But you know what? Listen, Madison Square Garden ice has never been good. I've played on that ice a couple of times because the constant turnover and concerts and Knicks, and it's never been good. The building's always been warm.
Well, but it was fucking freezing in there last night.
Well, they talked about that
last night.
You heard it on the broadcast, right, Emily? You guys talked about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was noticeable. First, I just feel bad because I want to like clear something. Paul, who runs the ice there, he's this British guy. He drives the Zamboni. Unbelievable human. I see how hard these guys are working on the ice.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I don't want to say it's the ice crew. Like, they know what they're doing. But when you book this building in the middle of Manhattan, as much as they do, with a concert before every game, it's impossible. They've been taking so many measures. Like, there's a big gate that goes up the ramp that I usually walk up. Cars go up. Like they've been keeping that closed. As Jonny mentioned, like the AC was blaring yesterday. But Maurice, like even when he's not talking about the ice, he is talking about the ice. Like it was funny. I think it was before the first game in Florida in our like off the record chat with broadcasters. He was like, you know, like I really don't want you guys to mention, but like the ice was really bad there. And then all of a sudden they stick a microphone in Paul Maurice's face on national television and he like gets that subtle dig in. And then even yesterday when I meet him in between the first and second period, and I was kind of just like, does this look like Panthers hockey because the Rangers had a good period? He goes, you know, we couldn't finish our 2-on chances. I'm not going to complain about the ice.
Yeah,
I'm not going to complain about it. So when you say it, it forces me to bring it up. Like he knows exactly what he's doing.
Mind games.
Yeah.
Emily, I know you got to catch a flight here soon, so I only got one more for you.
Like I'm never stressed about catching flights. I just have this big bag. But with you two, it brings out my Jewish anxiety. I was like freaking last night telling you guys I had a heart out and such.
Yeah, we don't want to keep you too long, but I just have one more for you. And you know, this doesn't have to be Rangers, Panthers. It can kind of be just playoffs in general right now. But you know, I always love to talk to you about like your, I guess, clippable moments. Like I know you did the question with Louis Domingue a couple years ago about the spicy pork and broccoli. Either last year or 2 years ago, you had the question to Rod Brindamore about taking out Auntie Ranta with him right in front of you. That was my personal favorite. I thought that was hilarious, but I love that one. I think it's so funny. I love that one. But have you had one moment in these playoffs that, you've laughed at or said like, this is just gold?
I don't know if I've had that one yet. I did see Louis Domingue because he's the black ace goalie for the Rangers these days. And it was overtime in Florida. And he's going into the ice with some chicken fingers and just munching on them. I was like, Louis, like, have we not learned our lesson? No fried food and spicy. He's like, ooh, sorry. That one's always going to live in infamy for me. I don't know if we've had that moment yet. It's been such amazing hockey. And I feel like I've settled into the job. And, you look for those fun, viral, special moments. I don't know if I necessarily love one from this playoff run yet, but we've got another round and maybe a couple more games in this round to go. So hopefully it comes. Sorry, I know that's not the answer you wanted.
And especially if Florida wins this series, Paul Maurice is destined to give you something at some point that will live in, infamy on YouTube forever. So you don't have to fully worry because you still have plenty of games. Emily, how many languages are you up to in knowing how to communicate or at least say hello and goodbye to? Do you have any idea where you're at with that?
French, Swedish, Finnish, Czech, Russian. I think those are the main 5. And then I had to learn Slovakian. I had to learn that one. A lot of them are spasiba, like the Eastern Bloc countries that are right around Russia. Where's Georgia from?
That's kind of near Russia.
Yeah, exactly. So I looked that one up and it was spasiba also. So those are the ones. And it's just a little general sign of respect. I just want to remind viewers that these guys are trying out there and putting in a lot of effort to do a language.
I don't know how you keep that in your head. I mean, when I go into those interviews at the end of a game, and obviously I don't do them as often as you do, but we get into the NCAA tournament or we get into the Frozen Four and I have to do that walk-off interview. I'm so focused on trying not to repeat the same question, drag a question out, do something stupid. If I was trying to remember some words in Russian, I can't even imagine where the interview would go. So I don't know how you juggle it and keep it all in your brain. Because in the moment, shit's happening quick. Guys are emotional. Guys are out of breath. Someone just made a big play, whatever. I mean, I know you saw last year or 2 years ago, whenever it was, when, the Quinnipiac coach couldn't even speak to me in the interview and he just asked me for a hug. I mean, I told him after, I'm like, you just made that interview so easy on me. Thank you for that. I'm like, I know it was weird, but it's all good. And I didn't have to ask you a follow-up question.
I know. I feel like all we need out of those interviews is just a human moment. And I think that's sometimes why I do it, because it gets the guys to break character. But the hug is a great example. And it's so hard because, like you said, they're coming with so much adrenaline. You come in with some adrenaline too. All of a sudden, you want to have this conversation and the light comes on and you're just I have to get into TV mode. But my biggest thing is they just trying to listen to what they say, try to feel their vibe. But yeah, once you commit it to memory, I mean, spasiba in Russian, someone once taught me, it's spicy butt. If you think of that, that's how you remember the word. So I always think spicy butt.
All right.
All right. We're really happy you joined us this morning.
Really awkward landing.
We will see you. We will see you on TV tomorrow night for Game 6.
Hope to see you back in New York on Monday.
And then hopefully for a Game 7, we are pushing for all Game 7s on this show. Obviously, Jonny has a much bigger dog in this fight than I do. I just want to see 7 games and good hockey, which I think this series has given us. I think this series in the East has been, it's just had a little bit of everything. I mean, it really has. So, and then you move on to the Stanley Cup Finals, right? It'll be you, Ray, and Sean for the Cup Finals as well, correct?
Yeah, it will. And I'm pumped to do it. I was pumped to come on with you guys this morning. I just have to say, Jonny, incredible rebound. I was expecting sad boy this morning, moping around, but
I called him out on that. I called him out on that this morning. I said, listen, you need to get your energy back, because after the loss in Florida, sad puppy sat on here for an hour with me, and it was very, very, demoralizing.
Colby hates when I'm happy, but hates it just as much when I'm sad.
Okay. Love you guys. Love your show. Thanks for having me.
Love you too. Thank you. Have a safe flight. All right, that was awesome. She's the best for hopping on. I know she's got to get to the airport here, but Colby, before we move on from Panthers and Rangers,
I do want to talk about the game a little bit more.
I was going to get to it. Yeah, I was going to ask you.
We have plenty of time to do, to preview Game 5 tonight of Oilers and Stars, but I do want to go into the game a little bit and what I saw and what you saw and talk about certain things that I think were a problem last night, right? And I think you can look at the fact that, Igor, he finally cracked a little bit last night. He really did. And he was great again last night, but, I didn't like that.
Hit again. The bet hit again.
What'd you say?
The bet hit again.
The bet did hit again, so he did make the saves. But I just thought that, there were probably 2 goals in that game that, again, not bad goals. Like the Forsling goal, it hits him, right? And if it hits you, I kind of get a little bit selfish in the playoffs, and I expect that. And then honestly, the second goal, I felt like he probably could have had that one too.
But both goals, you look at the way the Panthers, and this is something that we talked about too yesterday with Michael Delzato, like the Rangers' gaps have been so bad. And Florida has entered the blue line with way too much time and clear-cut possession. I mean, we look at this second goal. Look at the gap.
Yeah,
they're 5 feet back. And Lindell, I believe, who scored the goal. Also, something that goes a little unnoticed is Tarasenko driving that there that pushes them back a little bit.
I don't think that goes unnoticed at all.
By the casual fan.
Yeah.
If you look at that play and Tarasenko doesn't drive the net, it doesn't force Braden Schneider to move back as far as he does. And then Schneider gets caught trying to block that shot. And Shesterkin sees it, but Lindell is below the dots. Like, he's in close. He's in tight. I feel like most NHL players from that close to the net are going to score from there. But I thought the first goal was way worse. And Vic, I don't know if we have the first goal. That was a nice little highlight from ESPN, but Sam Bennett gets the puck. I think it was Lafreniere who makes a pass to Trocheck on the far side. Trocheck doesn't get the puck in, and Bennett has Lafreniere backing up so far.
Well, that's Messier. Mark Messier talked about this, and look, I thought Lafreniere played well again last night. I thought he was one of the forwards that had his feet moving. He won puck battles. He wasn't as good. He did have a couple of turnovers that I thought were a little bit soft and a little bit glaring. But ultimately, I thought he was one of the better Rangers last night, right? So, but on that goal, he's the forward in the middle of the ice, kind of in that set in the neutral zone, and he instead of pressuring the puck and challenging at the red line, he takes a bit of a weird route, and then he reroutes himself into like a way too defensive posture, and then he backs in off the line, and then and then they all get puck watch.
All puck watch, yeah.
And Mark Messier actually did a good breakdown of that in the studio, and he showed how not only, I don't remember the defensemen that were with him, but
it was Lindgren and Fox.
When you're that forward, that middle forward, your job is to start angling towards the wall and try to cut the ice in half. And he just completely misreads that play. And that leads to that goal. And look, like you said, Trocheck turns the puck over in he was
kind of handcuffed though.
A couple feet inside the blue line. It doesn't matter. It's playoffs. Yeah. That thing has to get deep. Like, that's the difference though. Florida didn't make that play. Yes, Tkachuk had a turnover. He had a giveaway, which again, if Ekblad was the only guy credited for a giveaway, well, what about that Tkachuk giveaway? So that's why we laugh a little bit. But at the end of the day, those types of reads against a team like the Panthers, which is an elite hockey team. I mean, I'm sorry to say this because I know we have a big Ranger following on our show.
They're the better team.
Ranger fans don't want to hear this, but the best team left in the playoffs right now is the Florida Panthers. That doesn't guarantee them to win the Stanley Cup. A lot of things can happen between now and then, right? But you look at the way that this team plays, like it's a coach's dream. They take care of the puck, right? They don't turn pucks over around their blue line. They dominate from the top of the circles down offensively. They buckle to the middle in the D zone, and they really give you no good looks. Their sticks are disciplined. They don't give up a lot of seam plays. The difference in the back pressure from the Florida Panthers to the Rangers, to me, it's glaring, Jonny. The New York Rangers defensive core backs in partly because they don't have the back pressure that, the Florida Panthers get. How about the goal where Roslovic, who again, I know people want to argue with me on this. I really do. But Roslovic makes a soft hope play to the net. Yeah. All three forwards get caught. There's no back pressure. The puck goes the other way, and that's a game-winning goal. You know, it's the game-winning goal. Now, Kakko gets on his horse and tries to get back, but you can't make soft hope plays towards the net. You just can't. And I got to tell you, if it wasn't for Igor Shesterkin, I don't think this series would be nearly as close as it is. I really don't.
I don't think anyone is arguing that. Yeah. I really don't. I don't. The bottom line is, and the truth is, like you said, the better team is winning right now. Again, though, like the Rangers power play has been the thing that has driven them basically all year. And there's moments where you want to deny it. You know, the power play merchants, as everyone calls them, like that's a weapon that they have that they haven't been able to channel in this series. They're 1 for 14. They're at 7%. You're not going to win at 7% on the power play. So it's turning into like what we've seen. And I'm sorry, do you hear background noise right now?
No, I'm laughing at a comment in the chat from Mohammed. Gustafsson penalty, most unfair administration of justice in New York City yesterday.
Oh, that's good.
I don't even think you're
no, I know.
You are connecting. Okay. I wasn't sure because I know you're not, that's not your thing, but
not a political guy really.
That is a very funny funny comment. Keep going.
No, this is the problem that the Rangers had in the Lundqvist era. They got great goaltending and their power play always struggled when it mattered most. And we're kind of seeing that same story being written now. And Colby, we talked about it on the show yesterday. The New York Rangers are cursed in Game 5s in the Eastern Conference Final. They're now 0-7 since 1994 in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Final. And, for this to happen continuously, Ranger fans always get hope. They always have hope that this year is going to be different. And, I wrote about it this morning for Daily Faceoff. This team has felt different all year. And now they have one chance to show it. It was sink or swim. Put up or shut up before the season started. And Game 6 is that exact vibe. It is put up or shut up. And Mika Zibanejad or Temi Panarin, those two specifically, I thought Panarin actually had his best period of the series in the first period last night. He looked aggressive. He was trying to get pucks to the net. He didn't shy away from the physical play. I think he had 3 shots on goal. He made stuff happen, but the rest of the game, he went a little bit quiet. And
look, it's funny. What? I was so during the game last night, I was, obviously we both know, we mentioned, we bring up Craig Doremus on the show a lot, who coaches the North American Hockey League Titans team. And, they won a championship a couple of years ago, but he used to work for the Rangers. He's a New York guy. He loves the New York Rangers. He watches the game with, probably a one eye as a fan and one eye as a coach. And, we were talking about this during the game last night, and I don't know if you and I texted about this, but look at the difference between, the top players on Florida and the Rangers, and let's just say the best player on each team, right? Like, so if you say Barkov. and Tkachuk versus, Panarin and, Mika, for example, probably, right? Like, look at the difference in puck and stick battles in the series. And it's a little surprising to me with Mika, and it's not as glaring. But the way Artemi Panarin is playing, I don't see him winning a single 50-50 battle on the wall. I don't see him winning a single stick battle. You look at the elite players in the NHL, the big-time guys, the big money, $10+ million players, 100-point players. Those guys, right? Even the highly finesse and skill players like a Willie Nylander, for example, right? Or Matthews, they do not lose stick battles. They go into a battle and they come out with the puck. And it's not because they're the biggest or the strongest or the fiercest, but it's a skill. It's an absolute skill for these high-end elite offensive players to win all their stick battles, right? And I don't mean cross-check stick battles. I don't mean running guys over. I just mean you get along the walls, you win those battles, you get pucks out, you push it to your teammate, whatever, you continue to possess the puck. And that's a big issue for me with the way Panarin is playing, is that he doesn't win a stick battle. And you look at Barkov, he doesn't lose a stick battle. No. You look at Tkachuk, Tkachuk makes, does not make soft plays. And yes, you're going to make one every once in a while. He had that turnover, but
even a guy like Reinhart too.
He doesn't lose stick battles, does he?
No.
Go up and down the Florida Panthers lineup, whether they're the sexy names or the fourth liners, they don't lose stick battles. And, it's why they've been a team that all year at times we're like, this is far and above the best team in the NHL. And I don't see how anybody's stopping this team. I don't. And I know the West has something to say about that, but I have a hard time with this running style of offense and defense. And I just keep going back to it because I feel like the whole world watches the NFL. The Florida Panthers are a ground and pound, run at 80%, throw at 20% type of team. And it's really difficult as we're seeing for Fox and these big time players to get anything going consistently against this team.
I have a couple more things I want to bring up before we move on. First, where I knew that game was not going to go the Rangers' way? And I don't know if you picked up on this. I'm sure you did, but I think there was one shift. It might have been back-to-back shifts where I believe it was Anton Lundell and then Luosterainen. And I'm blanking. What's Luosterainen's first name? I'm blanking on it.
Luosterainen's first name. He's got some like
ET or E2?
Yeah. Yep.
They both went between their legs.
Yeah.
And tried to score. And I'm like, holy fuck, this is a 1-1 game in game 5. And these guys are going between their legs. And it was probably an appropriate time to do it.
That's but give that context.
But the confidence level of that is insane.
But the first one, I think he just lost the puck. And I think that was natural instinct. And then I think on the other one, when you're coming from your weak side,
it's a great move.
Coming across the crease or whatever, a lot of times the goaltender's already you're stuck on your backhand, and the only way to get it back to your forehand without getting the puck pushed off your stick by the goalie is to go through your legs. So
I think it's a great move, but
they weren't circus shots by any means. They weren't.
But in what world are you seeing third liners try to pull that off in a tied game in the third period?
Yeah, I just think instincts.
It just shows no nerves though. There's no nerves. I thought that was like insane that those two did that.
Yeah. Well, look, they're the skill level in the NHL has never been higher. He's every player can do, what only one or two players used to be able to do. You know what I mean? So those plays didn't stick out to me as much, Johnny, especially.
Well, I just meant where I knew the Rangers were going to lose that game.
Yeah. When you see a lot of the replays from those, they were very instinctual plays. They were not pre-planned. They were not, they didn't look to me to be circus shots or anything along those lines. It just,
I'm not saying that either. I'm saying the confidence level.
No, I understand. Yeah. So look, I hope the New York Rangers can go to Florida and win a hockey game.
Well, we're not done yet. We're not done yet. Are you moving on?
No, go ahead. I'm just saying, I want this series to go 7, but it's just, it's getting harder and harder to think that the Florida Panthers aren't going to the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, there's two more things, and this is from the Rangers side, and we're getting a lot of it in the chat. A guy who plays 2 minutes and 43 seconds is never going to have an impact.
Zero.
And we've talked about Matt Rempe, and yesterday I called him Santa Claus, but in like a positive way. And sorry, the wind is blowing, and my blinds are kind of getting in me here. But I just don't see how you dress a guy and play him for 2 minutes and 40 seconds. And a guy who, again, in my opinion, I've said it, when he's been out there, I think he's been effective in this series. Like, I don't think he's been a liability at all.
His line gave up a chance when he got out there, I think on his last shift, whatever point of it was that in the second period, maybe. He only got 4 shifts, but ice time was definitely, not
as balanced.
It was not balanced last night. And when you're chasing a game, although they really weren't chasing a game, like it's not like they were down a ton a long period, right? It was a tie hockey game, but Panarin was at 23, Lafreniere 18, Trocheck 22, Kreider 22, and then the drop off, right? 11 for Gaudreau, 14 for Kakko. Heedle played 10.5 minutes. Will Cully played 8:44. It was just Rempe 2:43. Wenberg actually played over 15 minutes, which is surprising. Roslovic played 12 minutes. There was not a lot of balance in the ice. And, it's difficult against Florida because we keep saying, they're such a machine that, you're out of gas late in the game against the Florida Panthers when you're not able to balance your, when you're not able to balance the lineup card. But I agree. Like I've kind of said this a lot in a lot of different ways. Like I'm all for the Rempe show, but like, at no point did I feel watching this game on TV like, oh, like the building is up because Rempe's out on the ice, because he wasn't on the ice.
He wasn't on the ice, yeah. And I think in the third period, maybe when Florida's coming out, like Florida came out hot right off the bat in the third period, and you could sense the nervous energy in the building. Like maybe throw him out for one shift in the third, just to see what he could do.
It is tough when a guy's been sitting for that long.
Yeah.
It is very challenging to throw him out on the ice. Very challenging.
But we've talked about it, that he's a weapon at home. And if you don't use him at home, what's the fucking point of dressing him?
Look, I think it goes back to the bigger issue here, Johnny.
Yeah.
The depth of the Rangers. The depth of the Rangers doesn't match up enough. And you started Hedl on the top line last night. He played 10 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Roslovic, who, again, I think the guy's been a disaster when you really dig in and you really watch this guy play and you watch his shifts. Like, he's been a disaster. He really has. He's so soft on the puck. Against Florida, they feast on that. They probably love when this guy's on the ice. It's nothing personal. He's probably a great guy. I'm sure he's really nice. Yeah. But you look at his career, you look at how he has a first-line skill, but he's a fourth-line hockey player. Something doesn't match, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know why the Rangers refuse to put Brodzinski, in the lineup, but they do. And it just doesn't seem like it's going to matter. One thing I do want to quickly address, right?
Yeah.
Because I got this a lot yesterday. People are like, we need to put Lafreniere on the top power play unit.
I was going to ask. That was my last question I was going to ask you.
Where are you putting him?
I think you have to. Okay, so I've gotten this question a lot, and in fear of making Mika Zibanejad even less confident by taking him off, I think you just let Lafreniere play on the strong side. He's played in that spot before.
Hold on, though. But you look at
what do you have to lose at this point? They're 1 for 14.
Let's just talk through it, okay? Let's talk through it. So you're gonna blow up your whole power play because you want to get Lafreniere on the ice. Let me just go through this with you here.
Yeah.
You've got Panarin, who's a one-timer. He's a righty.
No, Panarin's usually on his strong side.
You've got Mika down low as a one-timer. You've got Trocheck who's a bumper as a one-timer.
Yeah.
Okay. You've got Fox who kind of does his thing, right? But where does the power play generally run through?
Mika.
Okay. No. It doesn't. Mika's the shooter. It doesn't run through him.
Like
okay?
Panarin, I would say.
Panarin or Fox. Okay. Having Laf in that spot does not work if that's who the power play runs through. Okay. So remember 2 games ago, when the power play stood up and Trocheck gets the goal on the pop out, and you know what I mean? So Lafreniere, that wasn't a power play goal, was it? The Fox, that little air pass that Lafreniere scored. So I just don't understand what you're going to do here. If you're going to put a lefty out in that spot, you're going to change everything. That's going to change Vinny Trocheck, because Trocheck right now, he needs to get pucks from down on the right side in order for him to be that bumper roll one-timer threat that he's been really good at all year, right? So I don't disagree that Lafreniere has outplayed a lot of forwards. I just don't know where you're putting him in there, and whose spot you're taking, and where you're going to change your entire setup and your entire look and not run it through Fox and Panarin anymore. I don't know.
All right, well, let me ask you this. Does it fucking matter at this point? They say if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but this thing's fucking broke.
But here's what I think. Why not give the second power play unit a couple of more opportunities? They did it last night. They started PP2 last night on one power play.
The top guys are out there.
I know, but here's a problem. Laf on the power play hasn't been great because he likes to try to carry the puck into the offensive zone, right? And I don't think that would be his role on power play 1. He turns the puck over entering the offensive zone a number of times in the power plays that he's gotten. He's been the guy who's tried to weave through, and he's made some soft plays that have ended up 200 feet back the other way. So he's not the only one, so I'm not picking on him.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I don't know where you're putting him.
When you have a guy who's clearly playing confidently right now, like, is he not? Maybe Vinny
100%.
Is he not the most confident Ranger right now? How do you not reward that?
He does look like the most confident Ranger. He does.
And how do you not reward that? Like, at what point do we say, their backs are against the wall now?
So you're taking Mika off the first power play and you're putting Lafreniere there.
I think in fear of taking away Mika's confidence, which probably isn't at its highest right now anyway, I think you just have to push the right buttons at some point, and they're now a loss away from their season being over. The power play is 1 for 14. At what point do you look at it and say, all right, guys, this isn't working right now. We have to do something to change it up. This guy has been our most fucking confident player. He's got 8 even strength goals. Give him a chance. Give him a chance. That's all I'm saying. Try it once. If it doesn't work the first time and it looks terrible, go back to the normal group.
Well, but again, you can't just try it once and then,
but listen,
you got to build continuity on a power play.
But in one game, if you have one game to do it, just try it. That's all I'm saying. You got nothing to lose.
We'll see what he does. Maybe they're going to finally do it, because I there's nothing I don't agree with what you're saying. It just, to me, I don't know where you're putting him on, because he's a lefty, unless you're going to take Panarin out. I don't know who you're taking off the power play.
Yeah.
Like,
we got someone saying that Lafreniere should go in Kreider's spot, but Kreider's become one of the best net front guys in the entire NHL. You're not putting
Kreider is that's where he makes his money. But I don't hate the idea of maybe balancing the units but it's all, Johnny, you're now it's do or die. Like, when it's do or die, coaches want to go with what they've seen. And even though it's been cold, these guys are stubborn. Lavi is stubborn. So look, we'll see what happens. We've aired our opinions. Yep. We've heard the chat. We hear what you guys are saying. We see the question a lot. It's something they got to figure out, because it's hurting them right now. The zone entries have been brutal. I mean, that's another thing, Johnny. Their zone entries have been absolutely terrible. Yeah. And that's in both series, actually. The other series, nobody can seem to enter the zone on the power play either. So let's keep going here. And let's just make sure we remind everybody, because I know we seem to have a pretty big audience today. We don't normally do these on Fridays. Make sure you take an opportunity, take a second, subscribe to the DFO YouTube page. We talked this week about all the different content between DFO Live at noon, fantasy stuff. Stephen Ellis is putting out a lot of draft content on DFO's YouTube page. The draft is 1 month away. I know the teams that are still playing, obviously not as worried about the draft, but the other, 28 teams are worried about the draft, and they want to know what their future is going to look like. So the other thing we would ask, if you were enjoying the episode, if you like these episodes, give us a like. It helps a lot. Yesterday, you guys were great about it. That helps our episode move up in the algorithms, and then we get more views on it, which helps us, with advertisers. They obviously love that. You guys know our different advertisers that we pump on the show every day. They're important partners that we have. So throw the subscribe, throw the like, all those things. I know they're really important to the longevity and the success of the show. So we do appreciate that, Johnny, as we keep moving along here and we start heading towards the preview for the West.
I'm just answering a question in the chat, but let's go into our OutWest Worst Team of the Week. This week, we're actually going to do it a little bit differently. But first, I know we've talked a lot about hoodies this spring, but summer is back in action. So let's talk polos. 6 new polos are now in stock and ready to ship at OutWestGolf.com. OutWest Performance polos feature our standard JVE blend, which is created to feel similar to the dry fit with a softer finish and making them feel great for physical activity or for a date night. Colby, you know how much I love date night. Once again, that's 6 new polos available in men's and women's for 15% off using our code Cuppa. That's CUPPA in all caps for 15% off. Go to OutWest. Every game needs an outlaw. And let me ask you a question, Colby. Usually we pick a worst team of the week. This week with 4 teams left, we're going to do something a little different. Which team right now out of these 4 would you say has the worst chance to move on? And don't look at the series being 3-2 Panthers. Pretend it's a 0-0 game 1. Which 4 team, I guess, do you have the least amount of faith in? Which of the 4?
I don't think that's a reasonable question. And I thought what we were going to do is pick our most underperforming player.
Okay, we can do that too.
What we talked about. And unfortunately, I have to say the most disappointing player has been Artemi Panarin. He really has, because when you look at the big boys in all these series, he's the one big boy that has just been a shell of himself. And, we talk a lot about on this show about a B game and contributing when you're not scoring. And Artemi Panarin hasn't contributed in any factor of the series. And so I think he has to wear it. And I think Ranger fans should be frustrated about that. This is a guy who has 100+ points this season. This is a guy that we talked about should be getting more love in the MVP race in the NHL. And when the lights got really bright, he faded away. He had a few moments in the first round, but you just watch him out there. He's not getting shots through. He's not moving his feet. I got into the puck battles and the stick battles thing. That's been really disappointing to me, to just watch him lose every puck battle and every stick battle. And, how can a team win against the Florida Panthers when their star highest paid guy is really just a non-factor over the course of, now 5 games of the second round, and was a pretty big non-factor in the last round as well, if we're being fair. So to me, my OutWest, underperformer of this round and really of the entire playoffs is Artemi Panarin. It's disappointing, because I think the Rangers need a guy like that to step up and make big plays, because the Panthers are that good and that deep and that complete. So that's who I would point at, Jonny. And what about you?
I mean, I don't want to make it all Rangers, but I guess it's just kind of fresh in everybody's mind. But I'd say it's more Mika Zibanejad than Artemi Panarin. And simply because I think it dates back to the regular season too. I mean, we're talking about a number one center, on a team that's in the conference final. He had 12 even strength goals this season and has 1 in the playoffs. Like, what top line center is doing that? It's a shame, because, I feel like before the playoffs and even in 2022, a lot of the conversation was, say what you want about Igor Shesterkin, but it's the team goes as Mika goes. When Mika Zibanejad's scoring goals, he's one of the hottest and streakiest players in the entire playoff. And it's just a shame that he's just not doing it. He's not producing. 1 goal in his last 11 games is just, it's unacceptable, honestly, at this point. But, to your Panarin point, we had Jackie Redmond on this show, and I asked her who needed to have the better playoff, Mitch Marner or Artemi Panarin. We were saying it before the playoffs, like, who has more pressure on their shoulders? Marner, we know what happened to him, but Panarin, who has a good series against Washington, does somewhat well against Carolina, but to have this performance against Florida, it's bad, man. He might get the Marner treatment. It's tough to see. And this is a guy who had to step up, and he hasn't. And it's a shame. It's a shame.
All right. Well, look, it's a lot of credit to the Florida Panthers. I think they do this to teams, and I don't think that can be understated. Let's move to the West, Jonny. Let's get into Pro Rasso. Let's spend 15-20 minutes here and preview this game tonight, because I got to tell you, I'm waking up this morning and I'm just feeling a hell of a lot different than I felt about this Dallas-Edmonton series all along.
Yep. So let's get into our Pro Rasso playoff preview, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care made in Italy since 1948. Pro Rasso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at Prorasso-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15 in all caps, Hockey15. That's 15% off at Prorasso-USA.com. All right, Colby. Edmonton, Dallas. It seems like the vibes have shifted toward Edmonton. Yesterday in our poll that we put up in the chat, it felt like everyone was voting either Edmonton in 6 or Edmonton in 7. There wasn't a lot of Dallas. So you've been high on Dallas all playoffs. You've been high on Dallas all year. What do you think of tonight's game?
Well, let me start by saying this. I think this whole Chris Tanev story is massive. I think no Chris Tanev, if that is the case. I think everybody has seen the photo of him in the Edmonton airport, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. NHL teams do not fly commercial; they fly private.
Yeah, do we think that's Photoshop or real?
There's a scenario where sometimes when you come in and out of Canada from the States, you have to use customs and not all the private airports in Canada have customs, at the private terminal. Like, sometimes when I was working in Chicago, we'd go to Winnipeg, we would have to go to this like private area and they would have it. Sometimes they wouldn't have it. So we'd have to go to a terminal that was more in the general airport. And depending on what time of night it was, sometimes we would go through customs back in Chicago, where we would fly into like a more private area of the Chicago O'Hare Airport, but then we would actually go through customs with other people. So it doesn't fully make sense to me. I'm not saying it's 100% not. I'm not sure.
Well, do you think he was maybe staying back to see a doctor or something?
That could be another thing, that he could have been going to see a doctor somewhere. I don't know. I have a hard time believing that story wouldn't have gotten out. So I don't know exactly what to make of it. The guy is clearly, nails, right? So you got to think if there's any way to shoot up his foot and numb him up, he's going to play. But how effective is he going to be? Hard to play against Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl when you're not 100%. Hard to play against them when you are 100%, let alone not 100%. So,
John, go into the funny comment.
We have a comment from D White in the chat. Private flights still go through the public terminals in Edmonton. We are a small city. And D, I'm that's, I was kind of hinting towards that, but I can also tell you, I've come in and out of Edmonton on a private flight, and we did not go through the public terminal. We went through like a little private aviation thing way off to the side of the airport, where we got off the plane and we went, walked right onto our buses. Somebody stood at the front of our plane from customs, collected our piece of paper, looked at our passport, and then we walked right off the plane onto our buses. So I do agree that does happen sometimes, to address your comment, D, but I can just tell you from my personal experience of flying with the Blackhawks that we didn't always do that. And I'm, some Canadian cities are different. I could be mixing some up, but I'm almost positive, because I did a lot of the Edmonton trips when I was doing work for the Blackhawks, because, Eddie O, the first year when he was still working there, he always had commitments when the team would go to Edmonton. So I would always go on that road trip. So I don't know, but I just think there's massive implications about this whole Chris Tanev thing being in a walking boot. Clearly, Jonny, he's injured.
Yeah. I mean, his status tonight is questionable still, right? And I think that guy is going to do everything he can in his power to play the game. But Colby, something that, we talk about a lot is momentum and how it carries over or does not carry over from game to game. But right now, the vibe is just, I kind of said it leading in, but it feels like Edmonton is just, for whatever reason, feels like they have it right now. And again, no panic in Dallas. I know that's the motto, but we talk about pressure. Rangers come out in game 5, home ice 2-2 last night. Can't get it done. Dallas definitely has more pressure on them tonight. No?
Well, look, I think the home team is always faced with a little more pressure. We've said that numerous times. Yeah. I'm not with you on this whole vibes thing.
You're not?
Because no, and I'll tell you why.
You're not really vibey. You're not really vibey.
John, the game
Your
before,
vibe is always the same.
Fair. But the game before, remember, Edmonton had a lead and Dallas came back on them. Okay. Yeah. So it's not like Edmonton just reeled off 2 or 3 straight wins, comeback wins. They had one win, right? It didn't carry from the game before when they had a demoralizing loss. But the vibes didn't carry. So I'm not.
But the point you just made about Edmonton is the same point about Dallas. Dallas is a 2-0 lead in the first period. They take the crowd out of the game, and Edmonton then just takes over.
I understand that they got to win. They go and they get a win, no doubt. But I'm not
the way they did it.
I'm not subscribing to the vibes are high thing. That to me does not. You always talk about the Rangers as this team of destiny, and then Mark Messier, the ultimate leader, came on ESPN and said that's bullshit. He said there's no such thing as a team of destiny. You got to earn every inch in the NHL playoffs. So he absolutely squashed your theory right then and there. We all know how you choked under pressure when you saw Mark Messier. We've already told that story on the show, so we'll save that for one of the off days. But, look, I think there's more pressure on Dallas because they're home. I think if they have question marks with their D-core, I think it's a problem if Lundqvist comes back into the lineup, because now you're forced to have 2 defensemen that you're a little bit worried about sheltering.
And he'll be shitting his pants.
And Lundqvist. Yeah, of course. You're playing against Connor McDavid, right? Who seems to be getting going. and been going better. I think the other thing we have to talk about, Jonny, is Knoblauch, the coach in Edmonton. Look at the changes that he made. I mean, it took a lot of you know, I don't know the right word for it. You know, I don't want to say it took a lot of balls, because I don't think that that's really the right characterization, but you know, it took confidence in certain individuals to make the changes that he did, and bringing McLeod in back into the second line, Perry back into the second line.
Yeah, I don't think it's balls to bring in Corey Perry.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I kind of paused on the word. I wanted to make sure I was using my words correctly, something I accuse you of not, of doing all the time. So I wanted to make sure I wasn't doing it myself. So, I think those moves really paid off. I think it gave a lot of confidence to the Edmonton Oilers. I think Corey Perry has something about him that I think, is big inside the dressing room. But
Vic actually made a good point, by the way. Vic just said it's more ballsy to scratch Corey Perry than it is to play him.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably something to that. Joey H in the chat said, "Do you guys genuinely hate each other?" That's not true. We do not genuinely hate each other. Johnny loves me. I genuinely hate him. So, it's kind of a love-hate type of situation for him, sort of a hate situation for me. But
Colby tells me to leave him alone all weekend, then he texts me and responds to my tweets all weekend.
The thing that you have to say, and I'm guilty of this, I didn't give the Edmonton Oilers a lot of a chance in this series. I really didn't. And
I think most didn't.
I'm still not moving off the Dallas Stars, although I feel more uncomfortable about that pick now than ever. I really do. I'm concerned about the back end. I don't think Jake Ottinger has been great in this series. I don't think he's been bad, but I don't think he's been great. He hasn't played at Shesterkin's level. He hasn't played at Bobrovsky's level. He's played at probably Stuart Skinner's level. But I think at times Skinner's been pretty damn good in this series as well. That's what I was going to say.
It's probably because Skinner hasn't been bad. That's probably why.
No, he hasn't.
Yeah.
So you got to think the power play, like, is anyone's power play going to wake up in this series? I mean, what do you have, two teams that haven't scored a power play goal in this series?
Could you, if I were to tell you before this conference final, both sides, that the Rangers would have more shorthanded goals than power play goals, and Edmonton would have more shorthanded goals than power play goals, you'd be like, what the fuck is going on here? And that's the case for both teams. Like, two of the best power plays in the NHL both have more shorthanded goals than power play goals, which is nuts.
Yeah.
You don't see that ever.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
But also on the flip side, I believe, and we talked about it with Tyler Yaremchuk the other day, the Edmonton-Dallas series has had a significantly low amount of calls. I think Edmonton's only getting 1 or 2 chances a night. It's not like they're 0 for 5 or 0 for 4 each night. They probably had under 10 power plays, I think, in the 4 games they played, both sides.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that, with the talent on these 2 power plays that you have these
that number, actually.
You have perennial all-star talent caliber guys. I think Dallas's power play, with Hintz back in, they're kind of reworking through those kinks, but you just got to think that McDavid and Draisaitl are going to break through on the power play, or Bouchard with the big shot. You have to think it's coming tonight. You have to.
Just to give the exact number, Edmonton's 0 for 6, Dallas 0 for 9. Dallas had 5 power plays in game 1 and failed to convert. That's when they had the double minor on McDavid in overtime, couldn't do it. And they lost that game too. So, yeah, 0 for 6, 0 for 9. So not like so many chances for either side.
And John Goyen says Dallas's net power play minus 11.1. Dallas average penalty kills per game is under 2 in the playoffs. I mean, that's a favorable number. Under 2 in the entire playoffs.
Yeah. I'm curious if John can actually clarify the negative net PP percentage and like how that's calculated.
Well, maybe what we'll have to do at some point is get him on and let him talk.
Yeah, he said he's going to break it down on DFO Live today.
So make sure I'm actually doing DFO Live today with Frank. We'll have a coach's room segment with John Goyen. So if you're free at noon today, get on the Daily Faceoff YouTube page. Make sure you check that out, because John Goyen's does a nice job of combining stats and making them digestible with what you're seeing. he's not just throwing numbers out that are like hieroglyphics. He kind of matches it all together. So check that out today on DFO Live. Look, I think what I would say, Jonny, and I said this before the show yesterday, I think whoever wins this game tonight, I think if Edmonton can take a 3-2 series lead in Dallas, I think they go home and close it out. I truly do. But I think if Dallas wins this game on home ice tonight, I think Dallas wins this series. I think we're at a coin
winner tonight.
We're at a coin flip in this series, which is something I didn't think would happen. So I've been proven to be wrong by the Edmonton Oilers, which I'm happy about. I said it all along. The matchup I would have loved to have seen was Rangers versus Edmonton in the Stanley Cup Finals. I said I don't think that's what we're going to get, but I always thought that's what I would have liked to have seen based on the character surrounding those two teams.
All right, so you want to do Betway, and then to finish the show, we'll give our prediction of what will happen over the weekend, because we're not going to talk until Monday. So there's a chance that both series are, well, I guess, Edmonton and Dallas play game 6 on Sunday. So there's a chance that we're wrapped up here on Monday.
They could. So
let's do Betway, and then we'll get into that.
We'll get to Betway. Last night we hit. We took Shesterkin on the over. It was minus 125, but we felt it was really good. Get involved with Betway. They're still offering this great promotion, free $200 bet. If your first bet doesn't hit, they'll reimburse you, like I said, up to $200, whether you bet the full or not. It's a one-time only opportunity. Use the QR code on your screen, create an account. That'll get you loaded up to take advantage of the welcome bonus. Not available in Ontario, so outside of Ontario only. Please make sure you play responsibly. Again, we've been hitting more of these than we haven't. We really have. And that's just a fact. We're not making that up. We got the receipts more times than not in the last couple of weeks. We're on the money.
Well, we stopped letting Vic pick.
We are going first period goals tonight, and we're going to take the over. Minus 125, 1.5 goals. You got to think each team scores a goal in the first period. You just do. I think both of these two teams are going to be looking to make an impact early in this game. Dallas is going to want to, reclaim the fact that they're on home ice, although they haven't started well in games that they've won. It seems like anytime they have a good start, they don't win the hockey game. They got out to a 3-0 lead against Colorado a couple of weeks ago. They lose the hockey game. They get off to that great 2-0 lead against Edmonton. They lose the hockey game. So, first periods have been a wild card for the Dallas Stars. But again, I think with these two goaltenders, you're likely to see a couple of goals. I think, it would not shock me if the first period ends at 1-1 or even potentially 2-2. Things do tighten up late in the playoffs. Teams are starting to get, into a best of 3. So the margin gets a little bit thinner and thinner. So I think that's what we're going to go with tonight. I think we're going to be successful with it. And I know if we're not, you'll let me know first thing, Jonny.
Yeah, I like the pick. It's a good one. I think tonight's going to be, last couple games are a little bit high scoring in that series. And I think tonight pressure's on both goalies. We'll see how they perform under that pressure. Not sure I can trust Skinner fully. Not sure I can even trust Ottinger fully. But that should be a fun
agree.
one.
I don't think Ottinger has given me the warm and fuzzies either. It's not like the other series where I'm sure the goalies are going to make the save until they're not. But I'm feeling sure of it. With the two goalies in this series, they've both played really well at times. They've both left a little, left a little to be desired at times. So that's not something I thought would happen. I very much gave Dallas the edge in goal in the series. And so we'll see. And where, everybody's making a big deal about Tanev. And while it does, you still have Nurse, who's not having a great series. You still have Desharnais, who's now been pulled out of the lineup for Broberg. So it's not like, there hasn't been defensive issues on either side, right?
Yeah.
We'll see if the depth for Edmonton can come through again. Big difference last game. McLeod, Perry, the depth comes through and gets you a couple of points on top of the fact that your big guns showed up and you got goals from Bouchard and Draisaitl and a couple of assists from Connor McDavid.
Yeah. So Colby, the next time we talk will be Monday. And I want to tell you my thoughts on what will happen over the weekend. I still think we're seeing 7 games in both series. I really do. It's just what my gut is telling me. I think the Rangers find a way to steal one in Florida and bring it back to the Garden. So we can talk about that game on Monday, because that game will be Monday night. If it does happen, obviously, I think it's just Shesterkin's game. Just steal one. That's all it takes. And then for Dallas and Edmonton, I actually see both road teams winning and forcing a game 7. I think Edmonton will win tonight and then have so much pressure on them to close it out at home that Dallas gets it done and we see a game 7 in that series. So I'm taking both road teams to win, just like in the East, actually. It'd be both road teams too, to win those games and force game 7s.
So I think we get to 7 games in Edmonton and Dallas.
You're putting a fork in my Rangers, huh?
And I think Dallas finds a way to get it done. Unfortunately, I'll qualify it. Unfortunately, because I've been yelling about this all season. I want Connor McDavid in primetime on ABC. I want that. I want that for everybody who doesn't get to watch him to see. But I don't think it's going to happen. Unfortunately, I don't have as much faith in your Rangers right now, Jonny. I think Florida goes home. I think they take care of business. I think they've just worn the Rangers down. I think this ground and pound style is just, it gets to everybody. I don't see it happening. I want to be wrong because I want game 7s. They're the best thing to watch in hockey playoffs. There's nothing more entertaining, and I'm sure the Garden, would bring some sort of an atmosphere to game 7, but I think Florida gets it done in 6. And I think Dallas gets it done in 7. I'd be happy. I'd be very happy to be wrong about both, but that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah. Seems that's just where we're headed. Right. But great show today. Great show this week, or great shows this week. The chat was electric today. Big thank you to Emily Kaplan. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up today and for the weekend or for the week?
Nope.
Thank you to our producer, Vic. Please continue to like and subscribe the show. It helps us a lot. We know that everyone is active in the chat. It would help us a lot if you just click the button and like the show. It goes a long way. So we appreciate it. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Enjoy game 5 tonight. Hopefully we're talking about the Rangers and Panthers come Monday. And hopefully we're talking about Dallas and Edmonton going to game 7 next week. So a lot to look for. A lot of things can change, but we appreciate all the support and have a great weekend, everybody.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content.